So to get my students to understand conceptually what volume is, we first start out with nets. And I have all of my students create the same net. So I have these cubes where they fill in the rectangular prism because I want them to understand what volume is. It is base times height. And you want to teach your fifth graders what base is, which is basically length times width, because there are a lot of questions on state test that will not necessarily ask them what is length times width times height, but they're going to use that word base, and I know that they use that also in middle school. So I have everybody do the same rectangular prism, and you can find them here in the worksheets that are in the PDF. And there are two versions. So everybody, you could pick whatever number you want, but let's say I have everybody do the rectangular prism number 1. And I also explicitly teach this is a net. And what I do in my classroom, my students sit in groups of 4. So I have 2 versions of the nets. I have one version where all the numbers are on the first and second and third page. So there are nets 1 through 4. Second page is 5 through 7, and then the last page is net 8. This works good if maybe you're a homeschool teacher, or if for some reason you have a small group and you want each kid to have their own packet with all of the prisms. Now for me in my classroom, what I did is I have all of my students sit in groups of 4. So I made a copy of all of these prisms. Every student, and I actually cut them in advance. So I cut them in 4s. I handed each student one of these. Everybody created their prism, and I just gave a few cubes to each group. Once they did that, they recorded the base times the height, which equals the volume. And then after that, I gave each group a different number prism. So for an example, I have groups by color. So red group, everybody got rectangular prism 2. My green group, everyone got rectangular prism 3. And they cut the nets out, they made the prism, they filled it up with cubes, they recorded it on their sheet, and then I told my students, okay, now that you're done, you're gonna stand up, because I love any opportunity when I could get my kids out of their seats. You're gonna stand up, you're gonna take your recording sheet, and then you're gonna visit other groups, and you're gonna determine the volume. And you can also save the nets for next year. Sometimes I just throw them in a Ziploc bag, and then I have like a bin that I just put them in. I like to do that just in case the following year I'm short on time and I don't want the students to create more than one prism. I always have them create that first prism, of course, where they're filling up the prism with cubes. But if I'm in a rush, I just pull these out, and the kids just walk around and they use the recording sheet to find the volume. When your students first create the rectangular prism for the first time, you do want to explicitly teach them that on the dotted lines, that is where they need to fold, and they want to fold their creases nice and tight. And then you also want to show them how to use the tape. You would be surprised how many kids take the tape that I have, and they're literally pulling like the longest strip out, and you're like, that's not necessary for a prism this tiny. So I also explicitly teach them, take your thumb, hold this down, and pull the tape, because if not, they just are wasting a lot of your tape. And we all know that things like that are some things that sometimes our school district doesn't provide. So I also teach them to just put the tape on the top like this, and then they want to fold it over and then just put the tape down. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's important that you teach them this, especially if you are going to have them create these robots, which are a lot of fun, and they come with the recording sheet, and they look so good for open house. And if you want to take it a step further, I also have a resource about find the unknown edge. And you see these questions all the time on state test, and the kids need explicit practice on finding the unknown edge, where sometimes they are given only the base and they have to figure out the height, and they're given volume. So it's not just an easy length times width times height formula. They also need to know the formula of base times height, or they need to know that they can figure out volume by taking the area and multiplying it with another dimension. So you can find these worksheets at my TPT store. They also come with word problems and also multi-step word problems. And I hope this helps. And make sure to visit my blog at schoolhouseengage.com. Thank you.